wondering if Jerry should introduce Brian. Are you comfortable with that?
Oh boy. Well, um, you see, well, I don't know Brian professionally. I know Brian because over the years we've shared a mutual friend and became friends ourselves, although not constant companions. But as I said, I was very impressed with some aspects of his work which he shared in conversations with me and others over the years. Um, and that's really all I can tell you.
Okay.
Uh, he is, uh, I think it's fair to say, though, an extremely caring human being and brings that care to the work that he does, or perhaps that it is because of that caring disposition that he does the type of work that he does.
Great.
And I think that we will all see that and benefit from it today.
Okay. And I will say that I've talked to Brian a couple of times, and he does seem like very open to almost anything. And he has been in the business, I think, for over 20 years and operating for
Yeah.
nonprofit associations, is my understanding. So, all the work he's doing, or most of it, is pertaining to people that need like accessibility and little things like um, Jerry was telling us about with the Alzheimer's people. But with that, I think I'll just let Brian get going and don't. Brian told me this, and don't worry about your questions. Ask anything. He has
Mhm.
said that he might not know the answer,
Mhm.
and if he doesn't, he'll look it up, figure it out. But he knows a lot of answers. So I will leave it up to you, Brian.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Jerry and Duncan. That was very kind. Yeah, no, I've pretty much always worked in the nonprofit sector. Um, and yeah, the client groups are always terrific to work with. There's a real sense of accomplishment when you get a building up and people are moving in or providing a service to the community. So, um, yeah. So sorry. So you are you seeing this first page with the building photographs?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Oh,
maybe I'll just quickly go around them. So in the upper left corner is Covenant House. So that's for youth, a 5-story building and a 10-story building that was done a number of years ago. The center picture with the orange or yellowish colored fins, that's Foxglove Shelter, that's located in Surrey. The upper right corner Budsey building, that is for women and children, and that's in Vancouver. The lower right is the Jervis, so that's a combination building. The lower white portion is affordable housing that was owned by the city of Vancouver, and then the condo tower above, that's on Davie Street, Jervis. Miramar is a condo project in White Rock. We also did the Autism Hub, that's out in Richmond. And then the last photo is of Bramble Gardens. So that's assisted living project in Vancouver. So the one thing about working on the diversity of projects, whether it's for youth or women or children or people with autism or care, is everything you learn from those projects, you sort of take it into the next project. Um, okay, so from an accessibility point of view, we are governed by the building code. So the first one is, of course, the British Columbia Building Code. Now, one thing that's a bit unusual here is Vancouver also has its own building code. It mainly follows the provincial one, but there's a few things that they've changed, and they don't. I think the Vancouver one comes out always like a year later or something. Now, both of them, section 3.8 is pertaining to accessibility. So this is where, heights of things, requirements are all listed in the code. The nice thing, and I can send this through as a PDF, there's a handbook that the province puts out, and it has all the sort of explanatory diagrams and ways to see things. So I'm gonna show a few examples of that. So mainly it goes through compliance, building fire safety, safety within floor areas, how exiting works, vertical transportation, which is of course stairs and elevators, health requirements, and then there's a section for part 9, whether it's housing or small buildings. Yeah, and then it goes through the different areas. So this would be like a sample page here where it's it's showing basically if you've got parking stalls for that are reserved parking or for accessible parking, it gives you the width they've got to be no less than 2400 millimeters. There's a certain length. They have to have a designated aisle, with markings so that people know when they get out of their vehicles, whether it's a car or any minivan, where they can go. Position of the signage on the wall, whether it's on a post or on the wall. I think it was Diana who might have asked about ramps, and so let me just zoom in here a little bit. So for example, if you've got a rampway, there always has to be a flat portion at either end of the ramp, and it's usually got to be 15 by 15, and that's for a turning radius for a wheelchair. And then there's always a tactile warning strip, and that's for both when either you're rolling over it or you're walking on it, you sense a different texture. And then also usually from a visual impairment point of view, it just helps you identify that it's changed. And then also where you've got stairs, there's typically a tactile warning strip at the top of the stairs, and usually it's one. You can see in this little diagram here, it's one tread back, so that again, it's a visual indicator that you're coming to a change in plane, whether it's a ramp or else a stair. Here's one where this is exterior, so like a public sidewalk where you've got the ramps down where you want to cross the street. You would also have a tactile warning strip there, and then also typically the walkways are well marked with diagonal strips and designated pathways so that cars know that they need to stay out of this area. And then of course washrooms. Again, you want the wheelchair turning radius of 1500 by 1500, clearances in front of sinks, and then again 1500 for minimum widths of corridors or access aisles, for getting into a accessible washroom stall. And then typically door widths have to be, I think usually they're 900 millimeters wide, just to make it easier to get in. The code also spells out, you can see here, the various heights of all the washroom equipment. So if you've got hand dryers or mirrors or sinks, urinals, grab bars, all that is spelled out by the code. Accessible showers. Um, Usually you have the option, say, for the seat, whether we typically try not to put in these folding seats. Like usually we like to put in a some some kind of a stool, or else there's a shower wheelchair, so that because depending on how someone wants to use it, if they whether the right arm or left arm is predominant in terms of using the shower head, um, we find that a stool or a wheelchair just allows much more flexibility for someone to use. And then it even extends to theater seating. So usually they give you a couple viewing options, closer to the screen or a little further back. And then, access again, minimum 1,500 for aisle turning radiuses. So the building code is really, it's setting minimum standards. So there's nothing to say that you can't do more things. And oftentimes we meet with, clients will say, oh, can you, this is something special we want put in the building or a change. So we don't have any issues with doing something like that. It's really this at a very minimum that you have to meet in order to get your building permit, or at the end of the day, occupancy. So, yeah. Okay. So the other thing that I just wanted to mention was the Rick Hansen Foundation has an accessibility certification. So how that works is you can have the steps are you would hire someone who's gone through their certification course, who they're familiar with how to go through the building, rate the various rooms, for accessibility factors, and these typically do go above and beyond code implications. So this is just so the categories and elements they go through is one is parking, and there's points for innovation if you do something above and beyond, exterior approaches to buildings, pathways, ramps, stairs. Maybe there's an alternative entrance into the building, interior circulation, which would be doorways, paths of travel, corridors, hallways, interior ramps, elevators, interior stairways, escalators, there could be moving walkways, such as at like an airport situation. Vertical platform lifts, that would be, I don't think you'd come across that very often. That would typically be maybe in loading bay areas. And then in interiors of the building, so lobbies, reception areas, desks and service counters. You want to make sure that you've got accessible countertops for someone to come and interact with staff, waiting areas, kitchens. Most of our projects, if we're doing a amenity space, we always make sure that it's accessible, which means larger openings where the sink is located, the microwave typically might be on the countertop, the dishwasher adjacency so that you can pull up beside it. Illumination is something. So, if someone is visually impaired, you want to make sure that the room has the correct lighting, like in terms of lumen intensity, so that everybody can see things properly. There might be color contrast. we were asked, this is quite a few years ago, to do a renovation of the CNIB camp on Bowen Island. And we were quite excited about that project. And we come up with different, ideas to enhance things. There was a fragrance garden. I'm trying to think. I think that was close to Blaine, actually. So we went down and we thought, okay, here's another thing that could be incorporated onto the site where you've got plants, or say you've got a herb garden or something that gives off a scent that if someone's walking around, it's another added feature to the site. Also signage, so you've got Braille, but you might actually have a map where you could actually feel where you are on the site. I was a few weeks ago, I was actually in Mexico City on a tour, sort of an arts and culture tour, and we were at a museum that had some of Diego Rivera's murals, and they actually had a tactile diagram of his mural below the actual mural. So you could actually feel the figures and the horses and the landscape. And then, of course, there was a Braille description beside it. So I don't usually see that very often at museums. So I thought that was actually a really nice feature to have. And then, of course, washroom showers, I mentioned that. And then, of course, signage, wayfinding, communication. How is that done so that, it just makes it easy for everyone to see, emergency systems, and then other uses of space, whether it's, the exterior or usually the design, you're trying to follow universal design principles. So what that means is you're doing something that's easy for everyone to use. And probably the easiest example of that would be a lever handle. So, originally when you had, doorknobs, if you had, say, arthritis or mobility issues, you might not be able to turn the doorknob. But then we started using lever handles where, someone could use an elbow to open the door, or just push down with something, right? So it doesn't point out that, someone has a disability. It's just allowing more people to use that function. So that's, we're always trying to find things that we can put into buildings that are like that.
I have some questions.
Okay.
These tactile strips.
Yep.
They seem to have shown up a lot in the last year or two. I'm wondering if the building code is being enforced around them, or something is being done to make sure that they're there, because a lot of people in wheelchairs don't really like them because their front casters catch on them.
For what reason? That
their front casters on the chair
are catching on them?
Yeah, on the bumps.
Okay. I guess it depends on how the tactile strip is designed. They're supposed to be.
Yeah, they will provide us a
like a
for everyone's
strip, so that you can sense there's something
That's
different
right,
on the
yeah.
surface,
They need
Yeah.
authorization.
but not that it's yeah, it should be flat enough so that it shouldn't really be affecting casters.
Okay.
So it may depend on how these have been designed. Because they should be designed so that they're not impeding movement at all. That it's a bit of a balance, I guess, in terms of how they're designed. And then usually they're a different color, like say a bright yellow or something, so that visually you see them before you encounter them.
That's right.
Yeah.
The original
They've
finish
shown
height,
up in-
which is the
sorry.
Go ahead, Jerry.
26 something.
They've shown up in new sidewalk installations in North Vancouver over the past 2 years that I've been here. And
right.
they are yellow, as Brian said, but they're like upside down, like they're like egg cartons. There's a bunch of bumps. And I'm in a power chair. They don't catch my casters, but they are bloody uncomfortable when you go over them. But on the other hand, they do stop, if you're not paying attention, they stop you from rolling out into the road. So I think I'll put up with it, you know.
Mhm.
I just wondered if they have been pushed in the last little bit because they seem to be showing up more and more.
Uh,
Well, it could be like I know with municipalities, they like from a work program, and I have seen this in Vancouver now, where they would just have traditional curbs, or they would have the letdowns, but they wouldn't have the tactile warning strips in place. So they're now going back and retrofitting to put these in so that they are code compliant. So it could be part of the works program of a municipality that's now starting to recognize, yes, we need to do this. So, yeah.
Okay, Jim, you got your hand up.
Yeah, I'd like to say the other reason why the tactile indicators are becoming more common is RHFAC created a program about 9 or 10 years ago. And prior to that, builders were building maybe to building code if we were lucky, although they didn't do a great job of inspecting. But RHFAC in their elements, they go far beyond the building code, because as we know, the building code itself doesn't work for everyone. The other thing that the RHFAC has done and really promoted in recent years is the code was based more on mobility disabilities, and now it encompasses people who are blind or partially sighted, deaf or hearing impaired, and also those who are neurodivergent. So we've come a long way with the building code. And just as a way of information, my husband actually is the lead adjudicator for the RHFAC program, and they're always looking for, especially people with disabilities. If any of you are interested in taking the program, just let us know.
Kim's actually made a good point that
Sorry, go ahead, Brian. Go ahead, Brian.
well, just that, when you're right, when we're talking about disabilities or accessibility, yeah, I should have mentioned hearing impaired, and then also we are like the neurodivergent is also becoming much more prevalent in terms of how do we address those issues. Yeah.
So just in terms of neurodivergent, I'm not sure if everyone knows, but we're talking about people, for example, who have autism or need like sensory rooms. That's becoming a lot more common. I'd say just really in recent years. I went to a new rec center that was built, community center in Surrey, and it's amazing. They have the sensory room all by itself there. So that's the way of the future. That group's getting far more vocal, and it's all a good thing, right?
Okay, Tyler?
I think Marty was actually first. I don't want to step on her toes.
Oh, okay, Barney?
Yeah,
Roll over.
don't roll over my toes. Yeah, one thing, I think that another reason things are happening lately, like I know in Kelowna, for example, they got like, because it's the 40th anniversary of the Rick Hansen tour, they all, like a lot of people applied for a $40,000 grant. And yeah, I was just gonna say about the tactile, it's not so much like the strips, but it's those raised yellow ones that cause a problem. And especially when they're like on the ramp, like at the beginning or at the top, like if you're wheeling up, it's you kind of better to have a smooth thing, right? So you really gotta pay attention for sure. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Okay.
Couple of questions or comments, I guess. First, the BC Access Handbook, in case people don't know. Unlike the building code, which is expensive and sort of cost prohibitive for the applicant to have, the Access Handbook is a free download, which is pretty cool for that kind of stuff. You forgot to mention that the hash marks in the parking spots between two handy spots, that's for motorcycle parking as well. That's for motorcycle park. Yeah. No, it's not. It's just a bad joke. Um, could you bring up the slide for the shower in the
Oh, yeah.
easy?
So
Just like
is this the one that you wanted to see?
right. So the question was, are they locating the shower controls and the spray nozzle in the code yet? I haven't looked at a code in a decade.
Yeah, so they are showing them on this back wall.
But nothing relative to the distance from the seat. The irony is that picture in itself shows how this fails. If you're a guy in a wheelchair
Yeah.
sitting on that seat,
Yeah.
reaching the shower controls and where the shower handle is mounted can be problematic, and that you can't control it.
Yeah, it should be more the 400 to 500 meter from the grab bar there. Should be where the shower is, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why we don't like to put this folding seat in. So
Yeah.
because the code does dictate sticking this on the back wall. Like sometimes we have had clients, so to meet the code we do this, but sometimes we do put another shower head on the side wall. Because depending on how the shower curtain works, so you might be spraying water into the room, so you sort of want to avoid doing that as well.
You know, the last hotel I stayed at actually in Montreal, they didn't even have a shower curtain. So I had to like push my chair kind of out of the way, kind of behind me a little bit. Yeah, so it was interesting.
All right. Yeah.
I don't know who controls places like hotels because they are very different. When you go to a hotel, you don't know what you're running into.
It should still fall under the building code.
Yeah.
It
should.
should.
Yeah.
The irony, I mean, the hard part is a building inspector looks at this stuff and they don't have firsthand knowledge. There's no lived experience. So they go, yeah, it ticks all the boxes. It's got all this stuff, but it doesn't work. That's where the stuff breaks down is the people that give that okay. They read the code and they know the code, but they don't understand why the code is written the way it is, if that makes sense.
Larry, I remember when we started this particular topic, you were talking about Surrey Memorial and how it's really not that accessible in the office areas. Do you remember that?
You talking to me, Duncan?
Yeah.
Oh, not just Surrey, but Jim Patterson Hospital too. Like you get into the elevators, like I ride a handicap. I'm a handicap. I ride a mobility scooter, and I have to go in at a diagonal just to get in. A lot of these elevators are too small. Primarily, everything's designed for a wheelchair, and they never think about the people that are on mobility scooters. And there's a lot of handicapped people on mobility scooters. And another beef I have is you push the button to open the door, and you just don't have time to get in through that door, and the door's closing on you, banging on you already. Not just the elevator doors, the entry doors to the buildings. They're so fast.
Are there building code requirements for those?
Well, no. That's a good question. I don't know if there are specific timing things, but you can certainly that's something that could be easily adjusted. Like if say it's set for 4 seconds, but you want it to be 10 seconds, that's should be doable. Like most of the door openers now, there's some electronic function to them. So you can typically adjust how long you want a door to stay open, or sliding doors, or the one thing that I've gathered from the conversation so far, and I'm curious about this, is when you talked about
the only issue
casters having issues with the tactile warning strips. I'm wondering how much of this information is actually getting back to the people who are writing these codes. Like, is there a mechanism in place that, for the next edition of the code, we need to change this to make it work better for everybody. So Yeah, I'll
And
have to do a
another-
little bit of research
I'm
on
not
that.
sure. I think
Yeah.
there are methods, but I don't know currently what they are.
Yeah.
And another thing, a lot of these medical offices and some of the buildings now, the doorways are so narrow, you can just barely fit through them.
Okay, Tyler, do you know if SCIBC has anything to do with the building code?
I think I remember some posts coming out about the
yeah, I
last
only,
code rendition and where you could go and look at stuff, but I don't remember, to be honest.
Okay,
I don't think
Oh,
so, Duncan.
I
And none
can
of them
actually-
have taken the SCIBC. No one from SCIBC has taken the Rick Hansen Foundation Assessors Program.
Mm.
And I think they should. It would really help the community.
I can actually talk about the building
Oh,
code.
you are
So, oh yeah, I'm here. I'm just silently listening. So quite a few of us sit on accessibility committees at all three levels of government. I myself have sat on the CSA standards association group for quite a few years. And so we're very familiar with building codes. What I would recommend people do is put in feedback to the provincial government, specifically requesting building code updates. There's a feedback tool on the government site, and I'll dig it up in a minute and put it on the chat. It's a really good option for making the government aware. We know they're already aware, but reminding them that this stuff really matters to people and that they should be looking at doing updates that meet the lived experience requirements of people with disabilities.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically up to individuals to put in their suggestions and see what happens. Is that right? Is that what am I reading that right?
Yeah, if they're not hearing from individuals, they will assume everything is fine. And unfortunately, we know that everything is not fine. We also know that it's exhausting to constantly put in feedback. So SCIBC does meet regularly with all levels of government to make sure that they're hearing the accumulated wisdom from our peer membership. But it's also really helpful if people can put in their individual experiences because that's really powerful.
Okay, Marty, you got your hand up?
Who can we write to again, Heather?
It's a feedback form for the provincial government. So it's for the Accessible BC Act, and the staff are mandated to follow up on the feedback that's submitted. You can do it anonymously, or you can choose to associate your name with it, and you may get an update if you put your name on it. And it can be for any level of government covered by the Accessible BC Act.
Great, thank you.
Now, Heather, when they're making these changes, I'm assuming they must do a certain amount of like prototyping and testing to make sure they're sort of getting the optimum results. And again, that's not something I'm really familiar with, but it's assumption on my part that.
Yeah, so what they look at is they'll review international standards, national standards, other provinces, and see what's being done elsewhere and what could be incorporated here. I would say that the biggest barrier to getting updates to the building code is the construction community themselves. And I don't want to point the finger, but in meetings that I have been in, there's been a lot of pushback from that community when, for example, we request a wider turning radius in bathrooms. We request that to be standard, and they push back and say that will be this much more expensive, and then therefore we won't be able to build as many units. I obviously disagree with that assessment politely, but that is the pushback that the government hears from the developers, and the developers and construction community have a lot of clout. They have a lot of money. And that's why it's really important that our community be vocal about how these things impact people directly. Because at the moment, they're really only hearing one side.
Yeah, I would agree with Heather. That's the feedback I hear from my spouse all the time, and that's my experiences. I live in Surrey, and we've been trying to work with one of the city councilors here to build more accessible housing. And there's lots of research to show if we do it right in the first place, the cost isn't nearly as much as a lot of the developers think. It's maybe 1% or less to do it right if we do it in the beginning. And I totally agree with Heather. We all need to be on board because, yeah, it is the developers, the owners of the land, who seem to be the most vocal, obviously, because they've got a lot of money they think that's at stake. But I think they really do need a lot more pressure from people like ourselves. We need to get involved and write. 100%, I agree.
I'm going to say that was very, very good. Thank you.
All right.
And thank you for being very flexible in answering questions. There weren't very many you couldn't answer, so that's good.
Thank you, Brian.
If something comes up, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to help out. And yeah, no, it was great to meet your group. I was
Gary,
really
you have your hand up
glad when I
Lisa?
heard about it.
Yeah, I do. I don't know how to put my hand up electronically in Zoom, but I would like to. I would like to ask Brian, when you were showing us the code as it's currently standing, is there any, can you tell us about anything that in your experience you have come across that should be, in your opinion, incorporated in the code to make it better? And also, do you have any ideas about what maybe should be incorporated into the code to make things better?
I don't know
I'm putting you on the spot, I know.
No, that's okay. I don't know that if I've got anything specific, but a lot of it just comes down to common sense sometimes. So I'll tell you, okay, this is going back probably 30 years. I was working with a developer client in, I think it was Richmond. And the way the code was written was you had to allow for an accessible entrance. So we got people into the entrance, but we had 3 steps up to get to the elevator. And we wanted to put a ramp in, and the developer's going, well, no, we're only required to get people into the lobby. And I'm going, no, that is not the intent of the code. Like, if you're getting someone into the building, they have to be able to get into the elevator. And there was a huge fight over this, and it was just stupid. It's like, so I don't know if the wording in the code changed. I haven't really followed that through, but like there's a mindset to accessibility. Like how do you make things accessible to people, and how do you carry it through the building so that it's consistent? So that just an oddball story from way back when. Yeah.
I'm currently looking for housing.
Okay.
And I've been to a number of apartment buildings or condos where I can get in the front door, and I get on the elevator, but then I go down to the hall to the place that's got an open house, and there's 3 steps down to get to it.
Okay.
And that's happened a few times. So I'm not sure, but these are older buildings, so they probably somehow beat the code. Okay, Heather, you have your hand up.
Yeah, accessible housing is one of my biggest pet peeves. So in a multi-unit apartment building, accessibility is required in the common areas. So that's why you can get in the door, get to the elevator, wide hallways, that kind of thing. Units themselves actually don't fall under the same requirements of the code. So there's quite a difference in terms of what units have to include in terms of accessibility versus what the building itself has to include, which is why you can have a very accessible entranceway and whatnot, but none of the units are actually properly accessible. It's incredibly frustrating. A couple of years ago, the BC government decided to mandate that 100% of new builds would be adaptable, which means that they could be somewhat easily adapted for some level of accessibility. Adaptability is not enough, of course, but that was what they went with. They got so much pushback from the developers and the construction community that they backtracked on that, and it's now 20% for new builds have to be adaptable. So very frustrating.
There you go.
I guess just to comment regarding you looking at condos, Duncan. If something was built back in the 70s and it met the code requirements for the 70s, it doesn't mean that they never have to get updated to today's building code requirements. They don't have to get updated to today's building code requirements until that space undergoes a major change of occupancy. And an occupancy is what is that class of the space going to be used for? If you have a house that's turned into an office, that's a major change of occupancy, I guess. And if that happens today, it now has to meet today's code requirements. But your condos you're looking at have been a condo for 30 years.
Yeah.
They fall under 30 years ago code and it never has to be updated.
No. It's just hunt and peck. Luck of the draw. Well, now I know some. I know some of them that are not accessible, so I don't go look at those ones. Okay, Brian, I'm going to say thank you very, very much.
All right.
Just your sort of
thank you.
demeanor is great. Okay?
All right.
You're an open book, and that creates openness on the call. So thank you again. You obviously know your stuff. You answered all the questions, which is great. And if somebody comes up with something else, I'll email you.
Okay. Yep. That'd
Okay.
be great. Yeah. No, I'm always learning new things. So yeah, that's part of how this business works. So yeah.
Okay. All right.
I'll head off then. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Good to meet you all. Thank you.
Likewise.
Bye-bye.